You need to learn some respect. Those words came out of my mouth before I even realized I was standing, before I processed what I was doing, before fear could stop me from walking straight toward the most dangerous man in this entire bar. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it, but my voice didn't crack. Not once. And when his cold eyes locked onto mine, when that piercing gaze swept over me like he was deciding whether I was worth his time or just another insect to crush, I didn't look away. I should have. God knows I should have. But something inside me that had been buried for years, something I thought my ex-husband had killed, suddenly roared to life. And I said the words that would change everything. Nobody dares abuse me. Not you. Not anyone. Hey, how are you doing? Wherever you are right now, whether you're driving, cooking, trying to fall asleep, or just looking for something to get lost in, I want you to stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of story that sounds impossible until you live it. The kind that makes you believe that sometimes the most dangerous thing in your life can become the safest place you've ever known. My name is Olivia Bennett, and this is the story of how I went from a broken, exhausted single mother working double shifts just to survive, to a woman who finally learned what it meant to be protected, cherished, and loved by someone who terrified everyone else but would burn the world down before letting anyone hurt me again. But let me start from the beginning. I was 29 years old when this all started. 29, exhausted and convinced that the best years of my life were already behind me. I had a 6-year-old daughter named Emma, a 1-bedroom apartment I could barely afford, and a job slinging drinks at the Anchor, a bar on the West Coast that sat right where the cliffs met the ocean. Beautiful location, rough crowd, decent tips on good nights. I believed that love was something other people got. I believed that my job was to survive, to protect Emma, to make sure she never saw me cry even though I cried almost every night after she fell asleep. I believed that men like my ex-husband Derek were everywhere, that they all wanted to control you, break you down, make you feel small until you forgot you were ever anything else. I believed I deserved to be alone. I was wrong about all of it. It was a Friday night in October when everything changed. The kind of night where the bar was packed wall to wall, where the music was too loud and the air smelled like beer and salt water and desperation. I had been on my feet for 6 hours straight. My lower back ached. My feet were screaming. But I kept moving because that's what you do when you have a daughter who needs new shoes and a landlord who doesn't care about your sob story. I was behind the bar refilling the ice bin when I felt it, that shift in the air. You know what I'm talking about if you've ever been in a room when someone truly dangerous walks in. It's not loud. It's not obvious. It's just this sudden drop in temperature, this collective held breath, like everyone decided at the same exact moment to be very, very still. I looked up, and there he was. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving through the crowd like the sea parting for Moses. Dark hair that fell back from his face in a way that looked effortless but probably wasn't. Sharp jawline covered in stubble that made him look like he hadn't slept in days but somehow still looked better than any man had a right to. And his eyes. God, those eyes. Cold. Calculating. The kind of eyes that saw everything and gave away nothing. He wore a black shirt with the sleeves rolled up, and I could see the tattoos covering his forearms, his hands. Intricate designs that probably meant something violent and permanent. Everything about him screamed danger. Everything about him said stay away. Everyone did. People literally moved out of his path. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Even Jake, the bouncer who was 6'4" and built like a tank, suddenly found something fascinating to look at on the floor. The man walked straight to the bar and sat down in the corner seat. The best seat. The one that faced the door and had his back to the wall. Of course he did. I kept my head down, kept working. This wasn't my problem. Whoever he was, whatever he wanted, someone else could deal with it. I had 4 more hours on this shift and a babysitter I was already paying too much. But then I saw Amy. Sweet, soft-spoken Amy who had only been working here for 3 weeks. Amy who still smiled at every customer like they were her favorite person in the world. Amy who didn't understand yet that some people didn't deserve that smile. She walked over to him with her notepad, that bright smile on her face. Hi there. Welcome to the Anchor. What can I get started for you tonight? He didn't even look at her. Just kept staring at his phone, jaw tight. Everything about him radiating the kind of mood that should have come with a warning label. Amy's smile faltered, but she tried again. We have some great specials tonight if you want to hear about them. Or I can just grab you a drink menu and give you a minute to. Whiskey. Neat. Don't water it down. His voice was deep, rough, the kind that made you think of gravel and cigarettes and things you shouldn't find attractive but somehow did anyway. Amy nodded quickly, that smile still trying so hard. Absolutely. We have a few different whiskeys. We've got a really nice bourbon that just came in, or there's... Did I ask for your life story? The words cut through the noise of the bar like a knife. Amy froze. I said whiskey. Neat. Are you capable of understanding 3 words? Or do I need to find someone with a functioning brain? I saw Amy's face crumble. Saw her smile disappear like someone had physically slapped it off her. Saw her hands start to shake as she gripped that notepad like it was the only thing keeping her standing. And something inside me snapped. I didn't think. Didn't plan. Didn't consider for even half a second that walking over there was probably the dumbest thing I'd done since marrying Derek. I just moved. Amy, I've got this table. Can you check on the group by the window? My voice came out steady, calm, like I confronted dangerous men every Friday night. Amy looked at me with wide, grateful eyes and practically ran toward the other side of the bar. And then I turned to face him. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Bigger. Sharper. Those eyes that had been cold when he looked at Amy turned absolutely glacial when they landed on me. You have something to say? His voice was quiet. Controlled. The kind of quiet that was more threatening than yelling ever could be. Yeah, actually I do. I planted my hands on the bar, leaned forward just enough to make sure he knew I wasn't backing down. That girl you just treated like garbage? She's new. She's trying her best. And she doesn't deserve to be spoken to like that, just because you're having a bad day. The bar had gone quiet again. Or maybe it had been quiet the whole time and I was just now noticing because every single person in the room was staring at us. He tilted his head slightly, studying me like I was some kind of fascinating insect he was deciding whether to crush or preserve. You're defending her. I'm doing my job. And part of my job is making sure my coworkers don't get verbally abused by customers who think they're too important to have basic manners. A muscle in his jaw twitched. His eyes narrowed. You have no idea who you're talking to. And you have no idea who you're talking to either. The words came out before I could stop them. My heart was absolutely racing now. My hands were still shaking. But I didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't let him see how terrified I actually was. He leaned back in his seat, a slow, dangerous smile spreading across his face. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the kind of smile a predator gives right before it strikes. Is that right? He looked me up and down, slow and deliberate, like he was taking inventory. And who exactly are you? I'm someone who's had a really long day. Someone who's been on her feet for 6 hours. Someone who has exactly 0 patience left for entitled men who think they can treat people like dirt just because they're in a bad mood. I leaned in closer, close enough to see the flecks of gray in those cold eyes, close enough to smell his cologne, something expensive and dark that probably cost more than my rent. Nobody dares abuse me. Not you. Not anyone. My voice trembled on those last words. Not with fear. With fury. With years of swallowing my pride, years of letting Derek make me feel small, years of being invisible. Not anymore. The entire bar was holding its breath. He stared at me for what felt like an eternity. I could see the shock in his eyes, quickly replaced by something else. Something I couldn't quite read. Then he did something I absolutely did not expect. He laughed. Not loud. Not mocking. Just a low, rough sound that seemed to surprise even him. Nobody's talked to me like that in a long time. Maybe they should have. I straightened up, grabbed a glass, poured his whiskey with hands that were definitely shaking now, and set it down in front of him hard enough that a little bit splashed onto the bar. There's your drink. Neat. Not watered down. Enjoy. I turned and walked away before he could respond, before my knees could give out. before anyone could see that I was absolutely terrified of what I had just done. Behind the bar, Amy grabbed my arm, her eyes huge. "Oh my God, Olivia. Do you know who that is?" "Don't care. That's Vincent Russo. He owns half the businesses on the waterfront. People say he's connected to, you know." She lowered her voice to barely a whisper. "The families." My stomach dropped. I had just mouthed off to a mafia boss. A real, actual, legitimate mafia boss. I was going to die. Or worse, Emma was going to grow up without a mother because I couldn't keep my mouth shut for once in my life. I glanced back at him, expecting to see rage. Expecting him to be calling someone, making plans, deciding how to make me disappear. But he was just sitting there, staring at his whiskey. And then he looked up, found me across the bar, and held my gaze. He raised his glass. Just a little. Like a toast. And drank. I had no idea then that this was the beginning of everything. That in standing up to him, I had done something no one else had dared to do in years. That I had sparked something in him that he didn't even know was still there. I had no idea that he would come back the next night. And the night after that. And the night after that. I had no idea that the most dangerous man I'd ever met would become the safest place I'd ever known. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First came the fear. The regret. The absolute certainty that I had just made the biggest mistake of my life. I got through the rest of my shift on pure adrenaline. Every time the door opened, I jumped. Every time someone approached the bar, I thought it was someone coming to drag me outside. Every time my phone buzzed, I thought it was the police calling to tell Emma that her mother had been found in the harbor. But nothing happened. Vincent Russo sat at the bar for exactly 2 hours. He didn't order another drink. Didn't speak to anyone else. Just sat there, sometimes looking at his phone, sometimes staring into space, and sometimes watching me. I felt his eyes on me all night. When he finally stood up to leave, he dropped a $100 bill on the bar. For one whiskey that cost $12. He didn't wait for change. Didn't say goodbye. Just walked out the same way he came in, with the whole bar holding its breath until he was gone. Amy grabbed the bill with shaking hands. "This is yours. You dealt with him. Split it." "Olivia." "Split it, Amy. You earned it by putting up with his attitude in the first place." She hugged me then, quick and fierce. "You're crazy. And amazing. And I can't believe you're still alive." "Yeah, me either." I laughed, but it came out shaky and wrong. When my shift finally ended at 2 a.m., I practically ran to my car. A beat-up Honda that Emma called the Blue Turtle, because it was old and slow and made weird noises. I locked the doors immediately, checked the back seat twice, and sat there for 5 full minutes just breathing. I had stood up to a mafia boss. I had told Vincent Russo that nobody dares abuse me. And I had survived. For tonight at least. I drove home through empty streets, checking my rearview mirror every 30 seconds. My apartment was in a neighborhood that was safe enough during the day but questionable after dark. I parked under the one working streetlight, grabbed my purse and keys, and ran up the exterior stairs to the second floor. Mrs. Barnes, my neighbor and babysitter, was dozing on my couch when I came in. Emma was asleep in her room, one arm flung over her stuffed rabbit, mouth open slightly, completely peaceful. I paid Mrs. Barnes, thanked her, locked the door behind her with all 3 locks, and then just stood there in my tiny living room. What had I done? What had I actually done? I had a daughter who needed me, a daughter who had already lost so much when Derek and I divorced, a daughter who deserved a mother who made smart choices and kept her head down and didn't antagonize dangerous men in bars. But God, it had felt good. For the first time in 3 years since the divorce, since Derek's final threat, since I'd stopped believing I was worth anything, I had felt powerful. I had felt seen. I had felt like myself again. And that terrified me more than anything else. I checked on Emma one more time, kissed her forehead, and then collapsed into my own bed fully clothed. Sleep didn't come easy. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those cold gray eyes. That dangerous smile. That slight raise of his glass. Like I had impressed him. Like I had done something no one else had dared to do. I told myself I'd never see him again. That he'd forget about the mouthy bartender who'd stood up to him. That this was just one weird night in a long series of weird nights working at the Anchor. I was wrong about that too. Because the next night, Saturday night, exactly 8 p.m., Vincent Russo walked back into the bar. And he sat in the same seat. And he looked directly at me. And smiled. He came back. I spotted him the second he walked through the door. Same time, same seat. Same unnerving confidence that made everyone else in the bar suddenly remember they had somewhere else to be. My stomach dropped. Amy saw him too and immediately grabbed my arm. I'll take him. You don't have to deal with him again. No. The word came out sharper than I intended. I started this. I'll handle it. That wasn't bravery talking. That was pure stubbornness, the same trait that had gotten me through a divorce, single motherhood, and 3 years of Derek's attempts to break me. If Vincent Russo thought he could intimidate me by showing up again, he had another thing coming. I walked over with my notepad, chin up, shoulders back. What can I get you? He looked up at me, and this time there was something different in his eyes. Not anger. Not amusement. Something closer to curiosity. Whiskey. Neat. Coming right up. I turned to walk away, but his voice stopped me. And an apology. I froze, turned back slowly. Excuse me. An apology. To your coworker. Amy, was it? He glanced past me to where Amy was wiping down tables, deliberately not looking our direction. What I said last night was out of line. I must have looked as shocked as I felt because he almost smiled. Don't look so surprised. Even assholes can have manners when properly reminded. I'll let her know. Tell her myself if she's willing to come over here without looking like I'm about to bite her head off. I stared at him for a long moment trying to figure out what game he was playing. But his expression was serious. Almost sincere. I'll ask her. Amy was terrified, but she came over with me standing right beside her. Vincent apologized simply and directly, and gave her a $50 tip for her trouble. She stammered out a thank you and practically sprinted back to safety. Better? I asked. Better. He took a sip of his whiskey. You always this protective of people you work with? Always this rude to waitresses? Touché. And that was how it started. Not with romance. Not with some dramatic declaration. Just with him coming back night after night, always at 8 p.m., always sitting in the same seat. At first, I thought he was establishing dominance, making a point. But as the days turned into weeks, I started to notice things. He never snapped at Amy again. In fact, he was polite to her, overly so, like he was trying to make up for that first night. He tipped well. Absurdly well. 20, 30, sometimes $50 tips for a single drink. He didn't talk much, but when he did, he asked questions. About the bar. About the town. About me. You from here originally? Born and raised. You. East Coast. Moved out here 5 years ago. Business. Something like that. He never elaborated and I never pushed. I knew what he was. Everyone knew what he was. Vincent Russo wasn't exactly hiding his connections. The expensive clothes, the respect mixed with fear everywhere he went. The way people whispered when he left. But he never made me feel afraid. That should have been my first warning sign. 3 weeks after that first night, Emma got sick. Nothing serious, just a cold that turned into an ear infection, but it meant missing work to take her to the clinic, waiting 3 hours because we didn't have insurance that covered urgent care, and then paying for antibiotics I couldn't really afford. I called the Anchor to let them know I couldn't make my shift. My manager, Paul, was not happy. Olivia, this is the 3rd time this month you've called out. My daughter is sick. I'm at the clinic right now. I need reliable people. I can't keep holding your position if you're not going to show up. Paul, please. I'll make it up. I'll work a double next weekend. We'll talk when you get back. The line went dead. I sat there in the clinic waiting room with Emma curled up against me, running a fever and whimpering, and felt the familiar panic rising in my chest. If I lost this job, I couldn't pay rent. If I couldn't pay rent, where would we go? Back to Derek? Never. Never in a million years. I'd figure it out. I always figured it out. But God, I was tired of always having to figure it out alone. When I finally made it back to work 2 days later, Paul pulled me aside before my shift started. "We need to talk about your attendance." "I know. I'm sorry. Emma was sick, and I couldn't leave her alone." "I get that you're a single mom, Olivia." "I do. But I have a business to run." "I understand. It won't happen again. You've said that before." I bit back, the defensive response rising in my throat. He was right. This wasn't the first time. Probably wouldn't be the last. Single mothers didn't get the luxury of perfect attendance. "What do you want me to say, Paul?" "I'm doing the best I can. I'm not firing you, but I'm cutting your hours. You'll work 3 nights a week instead of 5. If you can prove you're reliable, we'll talk about adding shifts back." 3 nights a week. That was barely enough to cover rent, let alone food, utilities, Emma's school expenses. "Please don't do this. It's already done. You start the new schedule next week." He walked away before I could argue. I made it through my shift on autopilot, smiling at customers, mixing drinks, pretending everything was fine. But inside I was calculating how much money I had saved, which bill I could pay late, whether I could pick up shifts at another bar. Vincent came in at his usual time. I poured his whiskey without him having to ask and set it down in front of him. "Rough night?" he asked. "Something like that. Want to talk about it?" I almost laughed. "Why would I talk about it with you?" "Because I'm here. And you look like you need to talk to someone." I should have walked away. Should have kept my mouth shut. Should have maintained the professional distance I'd been carefully constructing between us. But I was tired. And worried. And for some reason those gray eyes that had seemed so cold that first night now looked almost kind. My hours got cut. My daughter was sick, I had to miss work, and now I'm being punished for it. How many hours? Does it matter? Might. I sighed. 3 nights a week instead of 5. He nodded slowly, taking a sip of his drink. "That's not enough. Tell me about it. You need another job." "Yeah, well, jobs aren't exactly falling from the sky. Especially not for single mothers with spotty attendance records." He was quiet for a moment, turning his glass in his hands. Then he looked up at me. "I might have something." Every alarm bell in my head started ringing at once. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's business. I own a restaurant on the waterfront. Fine dining, high-end clientele. I need someone to manage the bar there. Someone who knows what they're doing and doesn't take crap from difficult customers." He said that last part with a slight smile. "Why would you offer me a job?" "Because you're good at what you do. Because you stood up to me when no one else would. Because I think you'd be an asset." He paused. "And because you need it." "I can't accept this." "Why not?" "Because I don't know you. Because people say things about you. Because this feels like a trap." "It's not a trap. It's a job offer. Better hours, better pay. More flexibility for when your daughter needs you. You can even bring her in during slow times if you need to. There's a back office she can do homework in." I stared at him, trying to find the catch. There had to be a catch. "What do you get out of this?" "A good bartender. And the satisfaction of knowing I helped someone who actually deserves help." "I don't need rescuing." "I know you don't. That's why I'm offering you a job. Not a handout." I wanted to say no. Every instinct I had told me to say no. To keep my distance from Vincent Russo and whatever dangerous world he lived in. But 3 nights a week wasn't enough. Emma needed new clothes for school. The car was making a noise that probably meant an expensive repair. My savings account had exactly $237 in it. What are the hours? 5 to midnight, 4 nights a week. Thursday through Sunday. $100 a shift plus tips. You'd be making more in 4 nights than you're making here in 3. $400 a week guaranteed. That was more than I was making now, even before the cut. And if it doesn't work out? Then you leave. No hard feelings. I'm not in the business of keeping people who don't want to be there. I took a deep breath. This was stupid. This was probably the stupidest thing I'd done since standing up to him in the first place. When would I start? Next week. Thursday night. I'll think about it. Take your time. He pulled out his wallet and handed me a business card. Simple, elegant, with just a name and a phone number. Call me when you decide. He finished his drink, left $100 bill on the bar, and walked out. I stared at that business card for the rest of my shift. Amy sidled up next to me during a quiet moment. What was that about? He offered me a job. Her eyes went wide. What kind of job? Bartending. At his restaurant. Are you going to take it? I don't know. Olivia, he's dangerous. I know. People don't just do nice things for Vincent Russo without wanting something in return. I know that too. But when I got home that night and looked at my bills spread across the kitchen table, when I checked my bank account and did the math on 3 shifts a week, when I thought about Emma asking why we couldn't afford the field trip her class was taking next month, I knew what my answer was going to be. I called him the next morning. It's Olivia. From the Anchor. I know who you are. There was something warm in his voice that hadn't been there before. You made your decision? I'll take the job. But I need to be clear about something first. I'm listening. This is just a job. Nothing more. I need the money and you need a bartender. That's where this ends. Understood. And if you ever treat me or anyone who works for you the way you treated Amy that first night, I'm gone. Fair enough. And I need Thursdays off once a month for Emma's parent-teacher conferences. Done. Anything else? I was running out of demands. No. That's it. Then welcome to Russo's. I'll see you Thursday at 4:30 for training. He hung up before I could change my mind. I stared at my phone, at that business card sitting on my kitchen counter, and wondered what I just agreed to. That week I gave Paul my notice at the Anchor. He barely reacted, just nodded and told me to finish out my shifts. Amy was devastated, but I promised to stay in touch. Thursday came too quickly. I dropped Emma off at Mrs. Barnes's, drove down to the waterfront, and parked in front of Russo's. It was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, elegant stone exterior, valet parking. The kind of place I'd never been able to afford to eat at. And now I was going to work there. Vincent was waiting for me inside. He was dressed differently, more formal. Dark slacks, a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, showing those tattooed forearms. He looked professional and dangerous all at once. You came. I said I would. Come on. I'll show you around. The restaurant was stunning. High ceilings, modern decor. A massive bar made of marble and dark wood. Everything was sleek and expensive and intimidating. This is yours? I asked, unable to keep the awe out of my voice. One of several businesses, but this is my favorite. The bar is your domain. You'll have 2 servers helping during busy nights, but you're in charge of everything behind the bar. Ordering, inventory, training. That's a lot of responsibility. You can handle it. He said it with such certainty that I almost believed him. He introduced me to the staff. A head chef named Marcus who barely looked up from his prep work. 2 servers, both young and clearly intimidated by Vincent. A hostess named Sophia who was warm and welcoming and whispered good luck when Vincent wasn't looking. Then he showed me the back office. It was small but comfortable. A desk, a couch, a TV mounted on the wall. Your daughter can stay here when you need her to. Sophia's daughter is 8. They sometimes do homework together during shifts. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. I was not going to cry. I was absolutely not going to cry in front of Vincent Russo on my first day of work. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't survived a Friday dinner rush. He was right. That first Friday night was chaos. 150 covers, a full bar, drink orders flying faster than I could keep up with. But I'd been bartending for 7 years. I knew how to move fast, how to prioritize, how to smile even when I was drowning. By the time the last customer left at midnight, I was exhausted but exhilarated. Vincent found me cleaning up the bar. You did good tonight. Thanks. This place is incredible. It's better with you in it. I looked up sharply, but his expression was unreadable. That's my cue to go home. I'll see you tomorrow. Olivia. I turned back. I'm glad you took the job. Me too. And I meant it. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe things were looking up. Like maybe I'd made a good decision. Like maybe working for Vincent Russo wasn't going to be the disaster everyone predicted. 2 weeks into the job, Derek showed up. I didn't see him at first. I was too busy making cocktails for a party of 12. But I felt him before I saw him, that familiar dread creeping up my spine. When I finally looked up, there he was, sitting at the far end of the bar. Same smug expression. Same entitled posture. Same eyes that used to make me feel so small. My hand started shaking. He waved me over with 2 fingers like I was a dog he was summoning. I took a deep breath, forced my hand steady, and walked over. What are you doing here, Derek? Can't a guy visit his ex-wife at her new fancy job? He looked around the restaurant with exaggerated appreciation. Nice place. Real upgrade from that dive bar you were working at. How do you manage this? I'm working. If you want to order something, order. Otherwise, you need to leave. I'm not here to order. I'm here to talk about Emma. My blood went cold. We have a custody agreement. You see her every other weekend. Yeah, about that. I've been thinking maybe that's not enough. Maybe I should file for primary custody. You can't do that. Sure I can. I have a stable home, a good job, a supportive girlfriend. You're working nights at a bar. Barely making ends meet. Leaving our daughter with strangers while you serve drinks to rich people. Mrs. Barnes is not a stranger. And I'm providing for Emma just fine. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're struggling. Constantly switching jobs, working weird hours, living in that tiny apartment. He leaned forward. A judge might agree that Emma would be better off with me. You don't want custody. You want control. I want what's best for my daughter. Your daughter you see twice a month? Your daughter whose birthday you forgot last year? That daughter. His expression hardened. Watch yourself, Olivia. I'm trying to be reasonable here. What do you want, Derek? I want you to stop being so stubborn. I want you to admit that you need help. My help. I will never need your help. Then I guess I'll see you in court. He stood up, dropped a 20 on the bar even though he hadn't ordered anything, and walked out. I stood there frozen, feeling everything I'd built in the last 2 weeks crumbling around me. Vincent appeared beside me so quietly I jumped. Who was that? No one. Just a customer. Olivia. His voice was gentle but firm. I'd learned in 2 weeks that Vincent didn't miss anything. He saw everything, heard everything, knew things before you told him. My ex-husband. What did he want? To threaten me. To remind me that he can still make my life miserable whenever he wants to. What kind of threats? I shouldn't tell him. This wasn't his problem. I barely knew him. But I was so tired of carrying everything alone. He's threatening to file for custody of my daughter. He doesn't want her. He just wants to hurt me. Vincent's jaw tightened. Something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Has he done this before? Every few months. Whenever he's bored or his girlfriend gets tired of him, or he just feels like reminding me that he still has power over me. And you let him? What choice do I have? He's her father. He has rights. And he's right that I'm barely keeping my head above water. A judge might actually listen to him. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that should have sounded crazy but somehow didn't. He won't bother you again. Vincent. I mean it. Derek, was it? He won't be a problem anymore. I don't need you to fight my battles. I know you don't. But you don't have to fight them alone either. He walked away before I could respond, disappearing into his office at the back of the restaurant. I should have been worried. Should have been scared of what Vincent might do. But all I felt was relief. And that terrified me more than Derek's threats ever could. Derek didn't come back to the restaurant. But 3 days later I got served with court papers. The process server showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday morning. Right as I was getting Emma ready for school. She was eating cereal at our tiny kitchen table, singing some song from a movie she loved, completely oblivious to the fact that her world was about to be turned upside down. I signed for the envelope with shaking hands, waited until the server left, and then locked myself in the bathroom to read it. Petition for modification of custody arrangement. The words blurred as my eyes filled with tears. Derek was actually doing it. He was actually taking me to court for primary custody of Emma. His reasoning was laid out in cold, legal language. Unstable work history, frequent job changes, inability to provide consistent care, late-night working hours, insufficient income, residence in a high-crime area. Every struggle I'd fought through alone, every sacrifice I'd made to keep us afloat, every hard choice between paying rent or buying groceries, it was all being used against me now. The court date was set for 6 weeks away. I slid down the bathroom wall and pressed my hand over my mouth to keep from sobbing out loud. Emma couldn't hear this. Emma couldn't know that her father was trying to take her away from me. There was a soft knock on the door. "Mommy? Are you okay?" I wiped my eyes, took a shaky breath, and opened the door. Emma stood there in her school uniform, her backpack already on, looking up at me with those big brown eyes that were so much like mine. "I'm fine, baby. Just had something in my eye." Both eyes. Smart kid. Too smart sometimes. Yeah, both eyes. "Come on, we're going to be late." I drove her to school in a daze, kissed her goodbye, watched her run toward her classroom with her friends, and then sat in my car in the parking lot and called the only person I could think of. "Vincent? It's Olivia. I need to take tonight off. Something came up." "What happened?" "I can't talk about it right now. I just need tonight off. Please." There was a pause. Then, "Come to the restaurant. We'll talk." "Vincent, I can't." "Olivia, come to the restaurant. I'm here now. We'll figure this out." I should have said no. Should have handled this myself like I handled everything else. But I was drowning and he was offering me a lifeline. I drove to Russo's and found Vincent in his office, sitting behind a massive desk covered in paperwork. He looked up when I walked in, and whatever he saw in my face made him stand immediately. "What happened?" I handed him the court papers without a word. He read through them slowly, his expression getting darker with every page. When he finally looked up, his eyes were cold in a way I hadn't seen since that first night at the Anchor. "He's actually trying to take your daughter. He doesn't want her. He just wants to hurt me. This is what he does. He threatens, he files paperwork, he makes me panic, and then at the last minute he withdraws everything and acts like he was doing me a favor. What if he doesn't withdraw this time?" That was the question that had been eating at me all morning. Then I lose her. Because everything he's saying is true. I do change jobs. I do work late nights. I don't make enough money. I live in a crappy apartment in a bad neighborhood. And he has a house, a steady job, a girlfriend who doesn't work nights. On paper, he looks like the better option. He's an abusive piece of garbage who forgot his daughter's birthday. That doesn't matter to a judge who's looking at income statements and housing situations. Vincent set the papers down and leaned back in his chair, studying me with an intensity that made me want to look away. "How much do you need?" "What?" "For a lawyer. A good one." "How much?" "I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm offering." "Vincent, I already owe you for this job. I can't take money from you too. You don't owe me anything. And this isn't a loan. It's help. The kind of help you actually need." I shook my head, feeling tears threatening again. "Why are you doing this? You barely know me." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood, walked around the desk, and leaned against it, his arms crossed over his chest. 6 years ago, I watched my sister go through something similar. Her ex-husband was a real piece of work. Controlling, manipulative, used their kids as weapons. She fought him in court for 2 years. Spent every penny she had on lawyers. Lost her house, her car, almost lost her mind. He paused. She won in the end, but it nearly destroyed her getting there. "I'm sorry. I didn't know you had a sister. I don't talk about my family much. But I remember what it looked like watching someone I love fight that battle alone. And I swore if I ever had the chance to help someone in that situation, I would. I'm not your sister. No. But you work for me. And I take care of people who work for me. It was the first time he'd admitted that this was more than just a professional courtesy. That maybe he actually cared what happened to me. I'll pay you back. Every penny. Even if it takes me years. Fine. Pay me back. But first, let's make sure you keep your daughter. He picked up his phone and made a call. Jonathan, it's Vincent. I need a favor. I have someone who needs the best family lawyer in the state. Yes, custody case. Can you recommend someone? He listened, nodding. Perfect. Send me their information. And Jonathan? Tell them this is priority. Whatever they need to clear their schedule. He hung up and looked at me. You have an appointment tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Rebecca Barnes. Best family lawyer on the West Coast. She's expensive, but she's worth it. Vincent. I'm not taking no for an answer on this, Olivia. Your ex-husband wants to play games? Fine. Let's play. But we're going to play to win. I burst into tears right there in his office. Not delicate, pretty tears. Ugly, exhausted, terrified tears that I'd been holding back for hours, for days, for years. Vincent didn't try to stop me. Didn't tell me it was going to be okay, or that I needed to calm down. He just pulled me into a hug and let me fall apart. And God help me, I let him. I cried for everything I'd lost when I married Derek. For every time he'd made me feel worthless. For every threat, every manipulation, every moment I believed I deserved to be alone. For the fear that I might actually lose Emma. For the exhaustion of fighting all the time, every day just to survive. When I finally stopped, Vincent handed me a box of tissues and sat down beside me. Sorry. That was unprofessional. That was human. There's a difference. I wiped my eyes, trying to pull myself together. Why are you really doing this? He was quiet for a moment. Can I tell you something? Sure. That first night at the Anchor, when you stood up to me, I went home angry. Not at you. At myself. Because you were right. I was being an asshole to that girl for no reason except that I could be. And when you called me on it, when you looked me in the eye and told me nobody dares abuse you, I realized something. What? That I'd become the kind of man people were afraid to challenge. The kind of man who could treat people badly and face no consequences. And I hated that. I hated what I'd become. So this is about guilt? No. This is about respect. You reminded me what it looks like when someone refuses to be small. When someone stands up for themselves and the people they care about, even when they're scared. That's rare. And I'm not going to let some pathetic ex-husband take that away from you. I looked at him, really looked at him. This dangerous man with his cold eyes and his violent reputation. And I saw something I hadn't expected. I saw someone who understood what it meant to fight. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank me yet. We still have to win. The next morning I met Rebecca Barnes in her office downtown. She was in her 40s, impeccably dressed, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She read through Derek's petition while I sat across from her, trying not to fidget. Finally she looked up. This is garbage. He's grasping at straws. But he's not wrong. I do work nights. I did change jobs. For good reasons. You were being punished for having a sick child. You found better employment with more flexibility. That shows resourcefulness, not instability. She made notes on a legal pad. Tell me about Derek. Everything. Don't leave anything out, even if you think it makes you look bad. So I told her. About the marriage that started sweet and turned controlling. About how Derek slowly isolated me from my friends, my family, anyone who might have helped me see what he was doing. About the verbal abuse that never quite crossed into physical but left bruises all the same. About the night I finally left, 8 months pregnant with Emma, with nothing but a suitcase and $200. About the 3 years since, with Derek using Emma as leverage whenever he wanted something from me. Rebecca listened without interrupting, her expression getting grimmer with every detail. Has he ever hurt Emma? No. Never. He ignores her mostly, but he's never been violent with her. Good. That makes this easier. What about documentation? Do you have any proof of his behavior? I have text messages, voicemails. He's not subtle when he's threatening me. Send me everything. Every text, every email, every recording. I want a complete picture of his pattern of harassment. You think we can win? I think we can destroy him. But I need you to be prepared for this to get ugly. He's going to dig into every aspect of your life. Your finances, your relationships, your parenting. He's going to try to make you look unstable. I am barely stable. That's the problem. No. You're a single mother doing everything in your power to provide for your child despite an abusive ex-husband who continues to traumatize you. There's a difference. She closed the file. We're going to build a case that shows exactly who Derek is and exactly who you are. And when we're done, no judge in their right mind will consider giving him custody. I left her office feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. Vincent called me that afternoon. How did it go? She thinks we can win. We will win. Listen, I need to tell you something. Something in his tone made my stomach drop. What? I had Derek looked into. Just basic background stuff. Nothing illegal. Vincent. He's been living with his girlfriend for 8 months. She has a daughter from a previous relationship. 7 years old. Okay. He's never mentioned that to Emma, has he? Never introduced them. No. He keeps his time with Emma separate from the rest of his life. Why? Because I think this whole custody thing is his girlfriend's idea. I think she's pushing him to go for primary custody, and he's going along with it to keep her happy. How do you know that? I have people who hear things. People who know people. Derek's been telling his friends that his girlfriend thinks Emma should live with them, that it would be good for her daughter to have a sibling around. My blood ran cold. He wants to take Emma away from me so his girlfriend can play happy family. That's what it looks like. That son of a. Rebecca needs to know this. Changes the case. He's not motivated by what's best for Emma. He's motivated by his relationship. You're right. I'll call her now. Olivia. Yeah. We're going to win this. I promise you. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. But I'd learned the hard way that promises were easy to make and hard to keep. The next few weeks were a nightmare. Derek's lawyer demanded financial records, employment history, character references. They wanted to interview Mrs. Barnes, Emma's teachers, even Amy from the Anchor. Rebecca handled it all with ruthless efficiency, but every new demand felt like another invasion, another violation. And through it all I still had to work, still had to take care of Emma, still had to pretend that everything was fine. Vincent made it easier. He gave me time off for meetings with Rebecca. He let me bring Emma to work more often, setting up the back office with books and toys. He never asked questions I didn't want to answer, never pushed for details I wasn't ready to share. But I felt him watching me, noticing when I was tired, when I was scared, when I was barely holding it together. One night, after an especially brutal day where Derek's lawyer had questioned me for 3 hours about every parenting decision I'd ever made, I broke down in Vincent's office. I can't do this. I can't keep fighting him. Yes, you can. You don't understand. He knows exactly how to hurt me. He knows exactly what to say to make me feel like I'm failing Emma. Are you failing her? I don't know. Maybe. She deserves better than this. Vincent grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. Listen to me. You are a good mother. You work your ass off to provide for your daughter. You protect her. You love her. You sacrifice everything for her. That is not failing. That is the opposite of failing. Then why does it feel like I'm losing? Because Derek wants you to feel that way. Because he's a manipulative bastard who gets off on making you doubt yourself. But you're not losing. You're fighting. And you're going to win. How do you know? Because I've seen you fight. And I've never seen you lose. Something shifted between us in that moment. Something dangerous and electric and impossible to ignore. He was still holding my shoulders. I was still looking up at him. And the space between us suddenly felt too small. Vincent. I should let you go. Yeah, you should. Neither of us moved. His hand came up, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. His touch was gentle, careful, like he thought I might break. Tell me to stop. I should. But you're not. No, I'm not. He leaned down slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. When his lips finally met mine, it felt like something inside me that had been locked away for years suddenly opened. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, testing. Then it deepened, became more urgent, more desperate. His hands tangled in my hair. My hands gripped his shirt. 3 years of loneliness, of fear, of fighting alone, all poured into that kiss. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. That was a bad idea, I whispered. Probably. I work for you. I know. This is complicated. I know that too. I can't afford complicated right now. Not with the custody case. Not with Emma. Not with everything. He stepped back, running a hand through his hair. You're right. I'm sorry. That was out of line. Don't apologize. Just, we can't do that again. Not until this is over. Agreed. But we both knew it was a lie. Because something had started that neither of us knew how to stop. And Derek was about to make everything so much worse. Derek started showing up everywhere. At Emma's school. At the grocery store. Outside my apartment building. He was always just far enough away to claim coincidence, but close enough to make sure I knew he was watching. Just checking on my daughter. He'd say with that smile that made my skin crawl. Making sure she's being properly cared for. Rebecca told me to document everything. Photos, times, locations. Building our case that he was harassing me, not parenting. But it was working. I was exhausted, paranoid, constantly looking over my shoulder. And then the rumors started. Whispers at Emma's school about my connection to Vincent Russo. Parents who used to smile at me now avoided eye contact. One mother actually pulled her daughter away when Emma tried to play with her at recess. Derek's lawyer had started digging into my employment at Russo's. They wanted to know how I got the job, what my relationship with Vincent was, whether I was involved in anything illegal. They're trying to paint you as someone with questionable judgment, Rebecca explained during one of our meetings. Someone who would take a job from a known criminal. Vincent isn't a criminal. He has connections to organized crime. That's enough for them to create doubt. So what do? You keep your distance from him. Professionally only. No personal relationship that they can twist into something inappropriate. Too late for that. Vincent and I hadn't kissed again, but the tension between us was suffocating. Every accidental touch, every shared look, every moment alone in his office felt like we were 1 second away from crossing a line we'd promised not to cross. You're distracted, he said one night after I'd mixed up 2 drink orders. I'm fine. You're not. Talk to me. I can't. Rebecca said I need to keep my distance from you. For the case. His jaw tightened. Because of what people are saying? Because Derek is using you against me. Using this job, using our friendship, using everything to make me look unstable. So what, we just pretend we don't know each other? We work together. That's it. That's all it can be right now. He stared at me for a long moment. And after? When this is over? I don't know if there's going to be an after. That hurt him. I could see it in his eyes. But I had to protect Emma. Nothing else mattered. The deposition was scheduled for 2 weeks before the court date. Derek's lawyer would question me under oath about everything. My finances, my job, my relationship with Vincent, my parenting. Rebecca prepped me for days. They're going to try to rattle you. Make you angry, make you defensive. Don't take the bait. Answer only what's asked. Stay calm. What if I can't? You can. You're stronger than you think. The deposition lasted 6 hours. Derek's lawyer was everything Rebecca warned me about. Cold, calculated, determined to make me look incompetent. Ms. Bennett, you've changed jobs 3 times in 2 years, correct? To find better opportunities for my family, yes. Or because you couldn't hold down stable employment? I left one job due to reduced hours and found better employment. That's responsible, not unstable. Better employment with a man who has known ties to organized crime? I work at a restaurant. A legitimate business. A restaurant owned by Vincent Russo. What is the nature of your relationship with Mr. Russo? Professional. Just professional? Yes. You spend considerable time alone with him in his office. Is that typical for a bartender? Rebecca cut in. She's a bar manager, not just a bartender. Meeting with the owner is part of her job. They went after everything. My apartment, my car, my income, the amount of time Emma spent with Mrs. Barnes. Your daughter spends more time with a neighbor than with you. My daughter spends evenings with a trusted caregiver, while I work to provide for her. Single parents do this every day. And where is Emma while you're working at Mr. Russo's restaurant? Sometimes with Mrs. Barnes, sometimes in the office at the restaurant doing homework. In a restaurant that serves alcohol to adults late into the night. You think that's an appropriate environment for a 6-year-old? I wanted to scream, wanted to cry, wanted to tell them that I was doing my best, that being a single mother wasn't a crime, that Derek had abandoned us and now wanted to act like Father of the Year. But I stayed calm, answered every question, let Rebecca object when needed. When it was finally over, I sat in my car and shook for 20 minutes. Vincent called that night. How bad was it? Bad. Rebecca thinks we're still in good shape. How do you know that? I called her. I'm paying her bill. I get updates. You shouldn't have done that. If Derek finds out you're that involved. I don't care what Derek finds out. I care about you and Emma. Vincent, please. You're making this harder. I'm trying to help. I know. But right now the best way you can help is by staying away. Silence on the other end. I should go, I said. Emma's waiting for me to read to her. Olivia, wait. What? After all this is over, we're going to talk. Really talk. About everything. Maybe. Not maybe. We are. He hung up before I could argue. 2 days before the court hearing, Derek played his final card. He showed up at the restaurant with his girlfriend, Rachel, and her daughter. They sat at a table right in my line of sight and ordered dinner. I watched through the bar as Derek played the perfect father figure, cutting up food for Rachel's daughter, laughing at something she said, holding Rachel's hand across the table, like they were the picture-perfect family. And I knew exactly what he was doing. He was showing me what I was up against. A stable family unit. 2 parents. Financial security. Everything a judge might think Emma needed. My hands shook as I made drinks. Vincent noticed immediately. He's here. I know. Want me to have him removed? No. That's exactly what he wants. For me to cause a scene to prove I'm unstable. You're not unstable. Tell that to the judge. Derek left a generous tip and a note on the receipt. See you in court. Vincent found the note after they left. I watched his expression turn dangerous. He's playing games. He always plays games. And he always wins. Not this time. But I wasn't sure anymore. Derek had spent 3 years learning exactly how to hurt me. And he was using every weapon he had. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario. Every way I could lose Emma. Every argument Derek's lawyer would make. Every weakness they'd exploit. At 2 a.m. my phone buzzed. Vincent. You awake? Me, unfortunately. Vincent. Meet me at the beach. The one by the restaurant. Me, it's 2 in the morning. Vincent, I know. Please. I shouldn't have gone. Should have stayed home, stayed safe, maintained the distance Rebecca insisted on. But I got dressed, checked on Emma, and drove to the beach. Vincent was standing at the water's edge, hands in his pockets, staring out at the ocean. I walked up beside him, and for a long time neither of us spoke. I'm scared, I finally admitted. I'm so scared I'm going to lose her. You won't. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise that I'll do everything in my power to make sure you don't. Why? Why do you care so much? He turned to face me. Because when you stood up to me that night, you reminded me what strength looks like. And I've watched you fight for weeks now with everything you have. You don't deserve to lose your daughter because some weak man can't handle the fact that you left him. Derek's going to win. He has everything. Money, stability, a family. I have nothing. You have something he'll never have. What? Emma's love. Real love. Not the kind you can fake for a judge. The kind she feels when you read to her at night. When you work double shifts so she can go on school trips. When you sacrifice everything to make sure she's okay. That's worth more than anything Derek can offer. I started crying again. Seemed like all I did lately was cry. Vincent pulled me into his arms, and I let myself lean on him. Just for a moment. Just long enough to remember what it felt like to not be alone. We're going to win, he whispered into my hair. I promise you. We're going to win. I wanted to believe him. But in 2 days I'd be standing in front of a judge, fighting for my daughter. And I had no idea if love would be enough. Act 4. Rising pressure and deception. The morning of the custody hearing I threw up twice. Emma didn't understand why I was dressed in a suit, why Mrs. Barnes was picking her up from school today, why I kept hugging her like I might never see her again. Mommy, you're squishing me. Sorry, baby. I just love you so much. I love you too. Can I have pancakes? I made her pancakes. Watched her eat them. Memorized every detail of her face just in case. Rebecca met me at the courthouse steps. She looked confident, put together like she did this every day. Which she probably did. Deep breath. We've got this. Have you seen Derek? Not yet. But Olivia, I need to tell you something before we go in. My stomach dropped. What? Derek's lawyer filed a last-minute motion this morning. They have a witness. What kind of witness? Someone who claims to have seen you at Russo's restaurant in a compromising position with Vincent. Late at night, alone in his office. The beach. Someone had seen us at the beach, or made up something worse, or Derek had paid someone to lie. Didn't matter which. Rebecca, I can explain. Don't. Not to me. Save it for the judge if it comes up. But Olivia, this is bad. This is exactly what they needed to paint you as someone with poor judgment. Nothing happened. We were just talking. The optics don't matter as much as the perception. Let me handle it. We walked into the courtroom together. Derek was already there with Rachel, both of them dressed like they were going to church. Perfect, wholesome, stable. Derek caught my eye and smiled. That same smile he'd given me the night I told him I was leaving. The smile that said he'd already won. Vincent appeared in the back of the courtroom just before the judge entered. He shouldn't have been there. His presence would only make things worse. But when our eyes met, I felt steadier. Less alone. The hearing began. Derek's lawyer went first, painting a picture of a struggling single mother with questionable employment, unstable living conditions, and inappropriate relationships. They brought up every job I'd lost, every late rent payment, every time Emma had stayed with Mrs. Barnes past midnight. Then they called their witness. A man I'd never seen before took the stand and swore he'd seen me and Vincent, in an intimate embrace, outside the restaurant at 2 in the morning. And the child was where during this time? Derek's lawyer asked. I have no idea. Presumably alone at home. It was a lie. Emma had been safely asleep with Mrs. Barnes checking on her every hour. But the damage was done. I could see the judge's expression shift. Concern. Doubt. Exactly what Derek wanted. Rebecca cross-examined him hard, poking holes in his story, questioning how he could see clearly at that distance in the dark, why he was even there at 2 a.m. But the seed was planted. When it was our turn, Rebecca presented everything. Text messages showing Derek's harassment. Voicemails where he threatened me. Testimony from Emma's teacher about how well-adjusted she was. How I never missed a parent-teacher conference. How Emma talked about me constantly with love and pride. She brought up Derek's forgotten birthday, his sporadic visitation, his sudden interest in custody only after his girlfriend entered the picture. Then she called me to the stand. "Miss Bennett, do you love your daughter? More than anything in the world. And would you do anything to protect her?" "Yes. Including working for someone with Mr. Russo's reputation to provide better opportunities? I work at a legitimate restaurant. I manage a bar. That's all. And your relationship with Mr. Russo?" I looked at Vincent in the back of the courtroom, at Derek smirking beside his lawyer, at the judge watching me carefully. Professional. He's my employer. Nothing more. This was it. The moment I could tell the truth or protect Emma. Nothing more. The lie tasted like ash, but I said it anyway. Rebecca sat down. Derek's lawyer stood up. "Miss Bennett, were you or were you not seen embracing Mr. Russo outside his restaurant at 2 in the morning 3 days ago?" I was upset about this hearing. He offered support as my employer. That's all. At 2 in the morning? Without your daughter. My daughter was safely at home with her caregiver. The same caregiver who watches her most nights while you work late? Mrs. Barnes is wonderful with Emma. But she's not Emma's mother. You are. Or you're supposed to be. Rebecca objected. The judge sustained it. But again the damage was done. When the hearing finally ended, the judge said she'd review everything and issue a ruling within 2 weeks. 2 weeks of not knowing. 2 weeks of waiting. 2 weeks of Emma asking me why I looked so sad. I walked out of the courthouse feeling like I'd just lost everything. Vincent was waiting by my car. "Don't," I said before he could speak. "Just don't. Olivia. You being here made it worse. That witness, whether he was lying or not, they're using you against me. They're saying I'm a bad mother because I know you. You're not a bad mother. Tell that to the judge." I got in my car and drove away before the tears started. I had 2 weeks to hold myself together. 2 weeks to pretend everything would be okay. 2 weeks before I found out if I'd lost my daughter. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. I was at work restocking the bar when my phone rang. Rebecca's number. My hand started shaking before I even answered. "Olivia, I need you to sit down. Just tell me." The judge ruled in Derek's favor. Temporary primary custody goes to him effective immediately. You'll have supervised visitation every other weekend pending a full evaluation in 6 months. The bottle I was holding slipped from my hands and shattered on the floor. "What? No. She can't. That's not possible. The witness testimony combined with your employment situation and work hours." The judge felt Emma would benefit from a more stable 2-parent household, while a full custody evaluation is conducted. "Rebecca, please. There has to be something we can do. An appeal, another hearing, anything. We can appeal, but it will take months. In the meantime, Derek has legal custody. You need to bring Emma to his house by 6 p.m. tomorrow." Tomorrow. I had 1 day left with my daughter. "Olivia, are you still there?" "I have to go." I hung up and slid down the wall behind the bar, glass crunching under me. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process that this was actually happening. Vincent found me there 10 minutes later, surrounded by broken glass and cheaper whiskey, sobbing so hard I was choking. He didn't ask questions. Just pulled me up, carried me to his office, and held me while I fell apart. He won. Derek won. I'm losing her. We'll fight this. We'll appeal. She's 6 years old. 6 months might as well be forever to her. She'll think I abandoned her. She'll think I didn't want her anymore. Emma knows you love her. Does she? Because right now a judge just decided I'm not fit to be her mother. I pulled away from him, wiping my face with shaking hands. This is my fault. I shouldn't have met you at the beach. I shouldn't have let myself get close to you. I should have kept my distance like Rebecca said. Don't do that. Don't blame yourself for his manipulation. Who else is there to blame? I made bad choices. I trusted the wrong people. I let my guard down. And now Emma's paying for it. The next 24 hours were torture. I picked Emma up from school like always, made her favorite dinner, Let her stay up past bedtime. Read her every book she wanted, played every game. Held her as long as she'd let me. She knew something was wrong. Mommy, why are you sad? I'm not sad, baby. I'm just really happy to be with you. Are you sick? No, sweetheart. I'm fine. How do you tell a 6-year-old that she has to go live with her father? That a judge decided you weren't good enough? That you failed her? At bedtime, she curled up against me like she used to when she was smaller. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, Emma. So much. More than all the stars in the sky. That's a lot. That's exactly how much I love you. She fell asleep in my arms. I stayed there all night, watching her breathe, memorizing her face, trying to figure out how I was supposed to survive 6 months without her. The next evening I packed her things. Clothes, toys, books, her stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was a baby. Derek's house was in a nice neighborhood. 2 stories, manicured lawn, American flag out front. Everything that screamed stability. Rachel answered the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Hi, Emma. We're so excited you're going to stay with us for a while. Emma looked up at me, confused. Mommy's staying too, right? I crouched down to her level, trying not to cry. No, baby. You're going to stay with Daddy for a little while. But I'll see you very soon. I promise. How soon? 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks, and then we'll have a whole weekend together. I don't want to stay here. I want to go home with you. I know, sweetheart. But you have to stay here for now. Daddy misses you. Derek appeared behind Rachel, and I saw the triumph in his eyes. He'd won. He'd finally broken me. Come on, Emma. We set up a room just for you. It's pink, your favorite color. Emma clung to me, and I had to physically pry her arms from around my neck. Be good, okay? I love you so much. Mommy, please don't leave me. Those words shattered me into pieces I knew I'd never put back together. I kissed her forehead one last time and walked away before she could see me completely break down. In my car I screamed. Actually screamed until my throat was raw. Then I drove home to an empty apartment that felt like a tomb. Mrs. Barnes came over with food I couldn't eat. Amy called and I didn't answer. Vincent texted and I turned off my phone. I lay in Emma's bed that night, holding her stuffed animals, breathing in her scent on the pillows, and wished I could disappear. Derek had finally won. He'd taken the only thing in the world that mattered to me, and I had no idea how to survive it. The first week without Emma I barely functioned. I went to work because I had to. Mixed drinks on autopilot. Smiled at customers with a face that felt like a mask. Went home to an apartment that echoed with her absence. Her cereal bowl still sat in the sink. Her drawings covered the refrigerator. Her shoes by the door, waiting for feet that wouldn't fill them. I stopped eating. Stopped sleeping. Stopped caring about anything except the countdown to my first supervised visitation. Vincent tried to help. He cut my hours without cutting my pay. Left food in his office that I ignored. Checked on me constantly with worried eyes I couldn't meet. You need to take care of yourself. Why? What's the point? Emma needs you healthy for when this is over. This won't be over. Derek's going to keep her. I know he will. The supervised visitation was held at a family center downtown. A cheerful room with toys and books and a woman named Patricia who sat in the corner taking notes on every interaction between mother and child. Emma ran to me the second she saw me. Mommy, I missed you so much. I held her so tight she squeaked. 2 weeks. It had only been 2 weeks, but she felt bigger somehow. Different. I missed you too, baby. Tell me everything. How's school? How's your room at Daddy's? She talked nonstop for the first hour. About her new room, Rachel's daughter Maya who was teaching her gymnastics, the trampoline in Derek's backyard. Every word was a knife. She was adjusting, building a life without me, and I was supposed to smile and be happy for her. Patricia watched everything. How I interacted with Emma. Whether I asked appropriate questions. If I said anything negative about Derek. I was being evaluated, judged, monitored like a criminal with my own daughter. When our 2 hours ended, Emma clung to me again. Can I come home now? Not yet, sweetheart. But soon. I promise. Another lie. Another promise I didn't know if I could keep. Derek picked her up right on time, and I watched through the window as he buckled her into his car. She waved at me and I waved back until they disappeared. Then I sat in my car and cried until I had nothing left. Rebecca called that night with an update on the appeal. It's not good, Olivia. The judge's ruling was within her discretion. We can argue she weighed the evidence incorrectly, but appeals courts generally defer to the trial judge on custody matters. So I'm not getting her back. I didn't say that, but it's going to take time. Probably the full 6 months for the evaluation. Maybe longer. 6 months. Half a year. An eternity in a 6-year-old's life. What's the evaluation going to involve? Home visits, psychological assessments, interviews with Emma. They'll evaluate both households and make a recommendation to the judge. Derek's house is bigger. Nicer. He has Rachel and her daughter. I have nothing. You have love. You have history. You have 3 years of being Emma's primary parent. And look where that got me. I hung up feeling more hopeless than before. Work became my only escape, but even that was falling apart. I mixed up orders. Snapped at customers. Forgot to restock the bar. Vincent pulled me aside one night. You need to take time off. I need to work. I need the money for the appeal. I'll cover the appeal costs. Take a week. Rest. You're running on empty. I can't stop. If I stop, I'll fall apart completely. You've already fallen apart. Now you need to let yourself heal. I don't deserve to heal. I lost my daughter because of my choices. His expression hardened. Derek lost his daughter the day he decided to use her as a weapon. You're a victim here, not a villain. Tell that to the judge who gave him custody. That night Derek sent me a video. Emma at his house, laughing with Maya on the trampoline, looking happier than I'd seen her in months. The message was clear. She doesn't need you anymore. I stared at that video for hours, watching my daughter smile without me, and felt something inside me break that I didn't know could break. Maybe Derek was right. Maybe Emma was better off without me. Without my small apartment, my late nights, my constant stress about money. Maybe the judge saw what I'd been too stubborn to admit. That I wasn't enough. That I'd never been enough. I texted Vincent at 3 a.m. Me, I can't do this anymore. He called immediately. Where are you? Home. Where else would I be? Stay there. I'm coming over. Vincent, don't. I'm fine. You're not fine. I'm 10 minutes away. He showed up in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair messy like he'd been sleeping. He took one look at me and pulled me into his arms. I can't keep fighting. I'm so tired of fighting. I know. She's happy with him. Did you see the video he sent? She's actually happy. Because she's a kid and kids are resilient. That doesn't mean she doesn't need you. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe everyone's been telling me the truth, and I just didn't want to hear it. That I'm not good enough. That I never was. Stop. Right now. You don't get to do this to yourself. Why not? The judge already did. Vincent grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. Listen to me. In 6 months you're going to get your daughter back. You're going to win this evaluation. You're going to prove to every person who doubted you that you are exactly the mother Emma needs. But you have to survive the next 6 months first. You have to hold on. I don't know if I can. Then let me hold on for you. Until you're strong enough to do it yourself. He stayed that night. Slept on my couch. Made me breakfast in the morning that I actually ate. And for the first time since losing Emma, I felt like maybe I could breathe again. But the darkness was still there. Waiting. Reminding me that I had 5.5 months left of this hell. 5.5 months of supervised visits in empty apartments and watching my daughter build a life without me. I didn't know if I'd survive it. But I had to try. For Emma. Even if she didn't need me anymore, I needed her. And that had to be enough to keep me going. The custody evaluator's name was Dr. Sarah Mitchell, and she showed up at my apartment on a rainy Tuesday morning with a clipboard and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Miss Bennett, thank you for meeting with me. I'll be conducting similar visits with Mr. Harrison's household as part of the evaluation process. My apartment had never looked smaller, more cramped, more inadequate. She walked through slowly, taking notes. The single bedroom Emma and I shared. The tiny kitchen. The bathroom with the leaky faucet I couldn't afford to fix. And where does Emma sleep when she's here? We share the bed. But I'm looking at 2-bedroom apartments. I just need a few more months to save up. More notes. More judgment I could feel but couldn't see. Tell me about your typical day with Emma. I described our routine. Breakfast together, school drop-off, work at the restaurant, Mrs. Barnes watching Emma until I got home, bedtime stories, weekends at the park. And your relationship with Vincent Russo? There it was. The question I'd been dreading. He's my employer. Nothing more. The court documents suggest there may be more to it than that. The court documents are based on a lie. Vincent offered me a job when I needed one. He's been professional and supportive. That's all. She wrote something down that took way too long. After she left, I called Rebecca in a panic. She thinks I'm lying about Vincent. I could see it in her face. Then we need to be proactive. Would Vincent be willing to give a statement? Clarify the nature of your relationship. I can't ask him to do that. He's already done too much. Olivia, this evaluation determines whether you get Emma back. Pride isn't worth losing your daughter over. She was right. I knew she was right. I called Vincent that afternoon. The evaluator wants to know about our relationship. Rebecca thinks you should give a statement. What do you want me to say? The truth. That we're just employer and employee. That nothing inappropriate has happened. Silence on his end. Vincent. Is that what you want? For me to say nothing happened between us. Something almost happened. But it didn't. We stopped it. Because you had to. Not because you wanted to. It doesn't matter what I wanted. I have to get Emma back. That's all that matters. And after? When you have her back. I don't know if there is an after. I don't know if I can risk anything that might give Derek ammunition again. More silence. I'll give the statement. I'll say whatever you need me to say. Thank you. But Olivia, when this is over, we're having a real conversation. About everything. He hung up before I could respond. 3 months into the evaluation, I got a call from Emma's school. She'd gotten into a fight with another student. Something about that girl saying mean things about me. I wasn't allowed to pick her up. Only Derek could do that as primary custodian. I sat in my car outside the school and watched him arrive. Watched him walk into the building. Watched him leave 20 minutes later with Emma. Her face tear-stained and angry. She saw me in the parking lot and tried to run to me. But Derek grabbed her hand. Emma, we talked about this. You see your mom on visitation days. But I want to see her now. That's not how custody works. He loaded her into his car while she cried my name, and I sat there completely powerless to help my own daughter. That night, Vincent found me in his office staring at nothing. What happened? I told him about the school, about Emma crying for me, about Derek's smug expression as he drove away with her. I can't do this anymore. 6 months of watching her suffer. 6 months of being treated like a danger to my own child. 6 months of Derek winning. So what's your other option? Give up. Maybe that would be easier for everyone. Vincent slammed his hand on the desk so hard I jumped. Easier for who? For Derek? For the judge who made a bad call? Because it sure as hell wouldn't be easier for Emma. She needs you. She's fighting for you. The least you can do is fight for her. I am fighting. No, you're surviving. There's a difference. Fighting means you stop letting Derek control the narrative. Stop letting fear make your decisions. Stop apologizing for needing help. I don't know how to do that. Then learn. Because in 3 months that evaluator is going to make a recommendation. And you need to give her a reason to recommend you. He was right. I'd been so focused on just getting through each day that I'd stopped actually fighting for Emma. The next day I called Rebecca. What do I need to do? To win this evaluation? Show improvement. better housing if possible, strong support system, stable employment, proof that Emma's well-being is your priority. I can do that. All of that. Then let's make a plan. I found a 2-bedroom apartment I could barely afford. Vincent quietly increased my pay to make it possible, and before I could argue, he told me it was a promotion I'd earned, not charity. I enrolled in parenting classes the evaluator recommended, attended every session, took notes, did the homework. I documented everything. Every supervised visit where Emma begged to come home. Every time Derek was late or dismissive. Every milestone he missed because he was too busy playing happy family. And slowly, so slowly I started to feel like myself again. Not the broken woman who'd lost her daughter. The woman who'd stood up to Vincent Russo and told him nobody dares abuse her. That woman was still here. She'd just been buried under grief and fear. But she was coming back. And she was done playing Derek's game. Dr. Mitchell came for her final visit 8 weeks later. The new apartment was small but clean, with Emma's room already set up and waiting. This is a significant improvement, Ms. Bennett. I wanted Emma to have her own space, to know she has a home here waiting for her. And Mr. Russo? Still my employer. Still supportive. Still just a friend. She studied me carefully. You seem different than during our first meeting. I am different. I stopped letting fear control me. I remembered why I'm fighting in the first place. And why is that? Because Emma is my daughter, and she deserves a mother who fights for her, not one who gives up when things get hard. Dr. Mitchell smiled. For the first time since I'd met her, it looked genuine. I'll have my report ready for the judge in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. After 4.5 months of hell, 2 more weeks. I could survive 2 more weeks. I had to. The call came on a Wednesday. Rebecca's voice was calm, but I could hear something underneath it. Something that made my heart stop. The evaluator submitted her report. The hearing is scheduled for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tomorrow? That's so soon. The judge wanted to move quickly. Olivia, I read the report. It's good. Really good. Dr. Mitchell is recommending that primary custody be returned to you. I sat down hard on my couch, unable to process what I was hearing. She's recommending me? Yes. She cited your improved housing, your stable employment, your commitment to Emma's well-being. She noted that Emma consistently expresses a desire to live with you, and that Derek's motivation appears to be control rather than parenting. So I'm getting her back? If the judge accepts the recommendation, yes. Be at the courthouse tomorrow. Bring everything we talked about. And Olivia, we're going to win this. I called Vincent immediately. The hearing is tomorrow. The evaluator recommended me. I knew she would. Will you be there? Silence. Vincent, I need you there. I know it's complicated, but I need you. Then I'll be there. The courtroom the next morning felt different. Less terrifying. More like a place where justice might actually happen. Derek sat with Rachel, both of them looking confident. They didn't know about the report yet. The judge entered and we all stood. I've reviewed Dr. Mitchell's evaluation thoroughly. I'd like to hear from both parties before I make my ruling. Mr. Harrison, you first. Derek's lawyer stood up and launched into the same speech. Stable home, 2-parent household, better resources. Then the judge cut him off. Mr. Harrison, I'm more interested in hearing about your involvement in Emma's daily life. Her schoolwork, her activities, her emotional needs. Derek stammered. Well, Rachel handles most of the day-to-day. I work long hours, but I'm very involved. Can you tell me the name of Emma's teacher? Silence. Her best friend. More silence. Her favorite subject in school? Derek's face went red. I'd have to ask Rachel. The judge turned to me. Miss Bennett. Mrs. Patterson is her teacher. Her best friend is Sophie Barnes, my babysitter's granddaughter. Her favorite subject is art, and she wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up, because she loves animals more than anything. The judge nodded slowly, then opened Dr. Mitchell's report. Dr. Mitchell's evaluation is quite clear. Ms. Bennett has made significant improvements in the past 4 months. More importantly, Emma has consistently and repeatedly expressed a strong desire to live with her mother. She reports feeling loved, safe, and prioritized by Ms. Bennett. She looked at Derek. The report also notes that you missed 3 of Emma's school events during the evaluation period, forgot her medication twice, and primarily rely on your girlfriend for actual parenting responsibilities. Your Honor, I've been busy with work. So has Ms. Bennett. The difference is she makes Emma her priority despite those obligations. The judge closed the file. I'm accepting Dr. Mitchell's recommendation. Primary custody is returned to Ms. Bennett effective immediately. Mr. Harrison, you'll have standard visitation every other weekend. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Couldn't believe what I was hearing. Emma can go home with you today, Ms. Bennett. I'm also ordering that Mr. Harrison complete parenting classes before unsupervised visitation resumes. Derek stood up furious. This is ridiculous. She works at a bar owned by a criminal. The judge's expression went ice cold. Mr. Harrison, sit down. Ms. Bennett's employment is legitimate and provides adequately for her daughter. If you continue to harass her about her professional relationships, I'll consider it grounds for a restraining order. Are we clear? Derek sat down, his face purple with rage. Court is adjourned. I stood there in shock while Rebecca hugged me, while Vincent smiled from the back of the courtroom, while Derek stormed out with Rachel trailing behind him. I'd won. After 6 months of hell, I'd actually won. Emma was at school. I drove there directly from the courthouse, walked into the office, and told them I was taking my daughter home. The secretary smiled. We heard from the court. She's in Mrs. Patterson's class. I walked down the hallway that I'd walked down 100 times before. But this time was different. This time I wasn't leaving without her. Mrs. Patterson saw me through the classroom door window and stepped outside. Ms. Bennett, congratulations. Emma will be so happy. Can I take her now? Of course. She went inside and a moment later, Emma appeared in the doorway. Our eyes met. Mommy. Hi, baby. Let's go home. She ran to me so fast she nearly knocked me over, wrapping her arms around my neck and holding on like she'd never let go. Forever? I can come home forever. Forever. I promise. She cried. I cried. Mrs. Patterson cried. And for the first time in 6 months I felt whole again. We stopped at Derek's house to get her things. He wasn't there, just Rachel, who had everything already packed and waiting by the door. I'm sorry, she said quietly. This was never supposed to happen like this. Derek said it would just be temporary, that you'd agree to shared custody. He lied to you too. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Emma's a wonderful little girl. Take care of her. I will. I always have. That night, Emma slept in her own bed in her own room. I checked on her every hour, still half convinced this was a dream I'd wake up from. But it wasn't a dream. She was home. And nobody was ever taking her from me again. 3 months later, life felt normal again. Emma was thriving. Her grades improved, her smile came back, and she stopped having nightmares about being taken away. Derek exercised his visitation exactly twice before his girlfriend left him, and he stopped showing up altogether. His loss. I kept working at Russo's, kept managing the bar, kept building a life I was actually proud of. And Vincent kept showing up. Not as my boss. Not as the dangerous man everyone feared. Just as Vincent. He came to Emma's school play. Helped me move furniture into the new apartment. Taught Emma how to make pizza dough on slow Sunday afternoons at the restaurant. He never pushed. Never demanded. Just stayed close enough that I knew he was there if I needed him. One night after Emma went to bed, he showed up at my door with takeout. You promised me a conversation. When everything was over. I did, didn't I? We sat on my couch eating Chinese food. And for the first time in months, I let myself really look at him. I was terrified of you that first night. I know. You stood up to me anyway. You were terrified too. Of what you'd become. He smiled. Maybe we saved each other a little bit. Maybe we did. He set down his food, turning to face me fully. I know this is complicated. I know my reputation makes things harder. But Olivia, I need you to know something. What? I'm in love with you. I have been since you told me nobody dares abuse you. Since you fought for that girl at the bar. Since you refused to let Derek break you. Since you stood in that courtroom and won your daughter back. My heart was racing. Vincent. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. Whatever you decide, whatever you need, I'm here. I looked at this man who'd terrified me once. Who'd helped me when he didn't have to. Who'd stood in the back of a courtroom just so I wouldn't feel alone. I'm in love with you too. I think I have been for a while. I was just too scared to admit it. He kissed me then. Soft and careful and full of promise. When we pulled apart, he was smiling. So what now? Now we take it slow. We figure this out together. And we make sure Emma's okay with everything. And if she's not? Then we wait until she is. Because she comes first. Always. I wouldn't want it any other way. 6 months after that, Vincent met me at the beach. The same beach where we'd stood in the dark while I fell apart. But this time was different. This time, Emma was building sandcastles nearby while Mrs. Barnes watched her. This time I wasn't broken. This time I was whole. I have something for you, Vincent said. He pulled out a small box and my breath caught. This isn't what you think. Not yet anyway. We're taking it slow, remember? He opened it to reveal a key. It's to my house. For you and Emma. Not to move in. Just so you know you always have a place. A safe place. With me. I took the key, feeling tears prick my eyes. Thank you. For everything. For seeing me when I couldn't see myself. For fighting with me. For staying. Always. Emma ran up to us then, covered in sand and grinning. Vincent, come see my castle. It has a moat and everything. He let her drag him away, and I stood there watching them together. My daughter and the man who'd become so much more than I ever expected. Life wasn't perfect. I still worked hard. Money was still tight sometimes. Derek still existed somewhere in the background, though he'd learned to keep his distance. But I had Emma. I had Vincent. I had a job I was good at and an apartment that was ours. I had fought for everything I'd almost lost and I'd won. Standing there on that beach, watching my daughter laugh while the man I loved built sandcastles with her, I realized something. I'd spent so long believing I didn't deserve happiness. That I wasn't enough. That love was something other people got. But I was wrong. I deserved all of it. And I was never letting anyone make me forget that again. So wherever you are right now, whatever you're going through, remember this. You're stronger than you think. You're worth fighting for. And sometimes the most dangerous thing in your life can become the safest place you've ever known. My name is Olivia Bennett. This was my story. And I'm just getting started. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all. Until next time, remember that you're never as alone as you feel. Keep fighting, keep believing, and never let anyone make you feel small.